Hello everybody, this is Jack Dennis and welcome to our fly fishing and tying channel. I hope you're all having a good start to the new year and out tying a lot of flies. We started a couple weeks ago with our Jack Dennis and Friends fly tying session. Our first one was with Dave Allison, and I'm going to be showing you some from the past. One of the things I've been involved with my fly tying career is setting up fly tying theaters and been involved with the many conclaves that fly fishing groups and clubs have over the country. And they really highlight tyers that you may not have ever met. And one of the best ones is ones in Idaho, both the Western Idaho Expo and the Eastern Idaho Expo, which is in Idaho Falls. They've been doing these fly tying get-togethers for a long time. We're talking over 30 years. So I want to do some highlights from some that I filmed in 2009 and 2010. And you'll get a chance to meet some names you know, and maybe some names you didn't know. And one of the nice things about tying at these expos is all the excitement and sounds of people going around telling lots and lots of fly fishing stories. Most of them may be exaggerated. But one of the nice things about the theater is you get a chance to listen to the tyers talk about their experiences and answer questions. I think you're going to enjoy them. We're going to start this week with several. We'll try to give you the most information. And I know some of you are going to say, wow, you know, I don't know about the materials. Well, these are really uncut. So, you know, you do your best on figuring it out. But I think you're going to enjoy the interaction with the crowd and with the tyers. And really uncut and I think extremely fun. Let's get going. Our next tyer is Bob Jacklin, and he is a legend, a fly fishing legend and a legendary fly tyer. His shop in West Yellowstone is known the worldwide as one of the expert places to get information on fishing Montana and, of course, Yellowstone Park. You will enjoy Bob's stories along with his tying, as he's one of the most entertaining fly fishing personalities you'll ever meet. And so it's on to Bob Jacklin, and I hope you get a chance to visit his shop in West Yellowstone or get one of his books if you're heading to Montana or fishing West Yellowstone.
The next one we're going to do is the giant dry fly, the salmon fly. Same hook. And here's the hook I'm using, I forgot to tell you. On the big nymph, I'm using a 200R. It's a Tiemco, and I like it better than the Dairiki. The Dairiki 270 is a good hook, but it's not forged. This hook, the steel, is forged. In other words, it's combined under pressure on the side to forge that steel. So it's a little stouter, and I want a good stout hook on this fly. But it's a nice hook. This is the big dry fly now. Okay, I'm going to get rid of my material for the nymph, put that back in my nymph bag, or otherwise I'll lose everything. There we go. Natural black hackle. Put that back, and we're going to get my giant stonefly dry. Here we are, got it. I'm looking out today. Sometimes I can't always find my stuff. I'm finding it pretty good. Sometimes I can't always do it. Here we go. I'm going to use a 280 denier fire orange thread. This is, you can break it, but you got to pull that thread pretty hard to break it. So that's what I want for tying a big salmon fly. So we're going to start at the top and put a nice layer of thread right on down, right where I want that egg sac. We're going to build a pontoon body with an egg sac. I'm going to go ahead and put a little cement on there, cement it in, okay? We're going to have a salmon fly orange body, which is a mixture of a tan Australian opossum and orange rabbit. That gives me that salmon dirty orange color. I'm going to use a big elk hair for the wing. And here's some more wing material, I'll just decide later. And then a big hackle. This is a big saddle, a Whiting's Farm. Look at that hackle. I mean, how can you get a hackle that long? I got a tall chickens. All right. And some elk rump. I buy my elk here and I want elk rump. I want the rear end of these big cow elk, bull elk, dyed black. That gives me a nice long black hair. This is going to be the egg sac in this fly. Now I'm going to bring the thread again back up front, tie in the tips or near the tips, and then I'm going to bring this thread all the way back and lash down my black elk hair and bring the thread up about halfway. Now I got it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean that off and I'm going to cut it flat. That becomes an egg sac. The big female salmon flies, what they're looking for, she'll get down on the water and deposit these eggs right on the water, sometimes even drop them. And the egg sacs are very dense, and they'll go right to the bottom of the river. And the trout will love to grab these females when they have that big egg sac. A little cement. Once I cement this now, this whole hollow portion of the elk hair becomes a pontoon. That's going to help float that fly, so that's part of my thought. Take our dubbing, and we're going to put a little dubbing in here. Just to start it. We better put a little wax on here. All right, a little dubbing in here, not much. And I have a dubbing twister I think I'll use today. I don't always use it, but I like it, and I notice it's with me, so I'll go ahead and use it. The man is not here today, but he was here every year for years, Dean Childs, and he's the one that designs all these great fly tying tools. The bobbin I'm using is called an S&M. I started using this bobbin in 1962. It's the finest bobbin ever made. It was made by Charlie Malley and Walt Stockman in Bristol, Connecticut. They sold for about $2 then, and I've been selling this bobbin for years, the only bobbin I ever used. And then Dean Childs was able to do a ceramic, and this is a good looking one. This one sells for about $15 now, but that's a ceramic done with his fancy work and really a nice bobbin. I showed this bobbin to A.K. Best, who's one of the top commercial tires, and he has never used another bobbin since 1972, and I've been using it since 1962. All right, we're going to take in and rib this hackle. We're going to rib this body with this hackle. We're going to tie that saddle hackle right in there real nice. We're going to put a little wax on our thread. And now I'm going to take one of Dean's tools. This is called a dubbing twister. I helped design it, but really Dean did all the real work on it. I just kind of commented. But we're going to twist and make a piece of yarn out of this dubbing. And with that, we're going to go ahead and build our body. Here we go. We're going to put a loose dubbing like Gretchen did earlier, but we're going to make it into a piece of yarn. Kind of loose dubbing. You want to taper it a little bit. The salmon fly has about 1/8 of an inch thickness in the orange colored body. So you want to stick with that as much as you can, about 1/8 of an inch, not a quarter, about 1/8. We're going to rib the hackle here, or palmer the hackle. I got to tell you this story. I know I'm kind of redundant. I tell the same stories all the time, but that's all I know, so I got to keep telling the same stories. See? But okay, we're going to make a dubbing twister by forcing a loop. We're going to wrap the thread up. Now I have a loop in my hand with the dubbing on one side, the thread on the other. We're going to take this dubbing tool, put it in here with this hook, and we're just going to spin it. Now I've got a piece of dubbing like a piece of yarn. And that piece of dubbing, we're going to make a really nice body, and that body will not come apart. Now I could use poly or some other synthetic for a body, which is okay, but this body takes a little longer to make, and it's much better and will float like Billy be damned. And that's what you need. That fly's got to float. Look at that body, about 1/8 of an inch, maybe even a little more. Now we're going to rib, we're going to palmer the hackle. When I was a kid, I always wanted to learn where the term palmering came from. I'm sure it was a guy named Palmer. See, they palmered the hackle. But back in the 15th century, during the last couple of crusades they had, all these adventurers, I call them soldiers too, but adventurers, went to the Holy Lands. Seems to be a controversy what they did there, I don't know, but they went to the Holy Lands. When they came back to prove that they were in the Holy Lands, they brought wagon loads of palms with them that some of the churches give out on Palm Sunday. They took these palms when they got to London and they tied them to their body, and they wrapped a palm around their body in caterpillar fashion, and they paraded down London, 15th century. They were known as a palmer, and a palmer is a guy that went to the Holy Land and came back. That was a palmer. So the first fly ever tied by Julian Berners, she tied what they call a soldier palmer, and it was nothing more than a red wool yarn for the red uniform of the soldier, red hackle, which is really brown hackle, red. They palmered it means to wrap around in caterpillar fashion. That's what's called palmering the hackle, what I'm doing here. So we're making a nice palmer hackle, which we're going to float real well, and we tie it off, a couple of wraps, and I break mine. The reason I break it, what's left, I tie that in, what's left, and that's now tied twice. That fly's not coming apart with the hackle. Now I left a good 1/4 of an inch to that eye right there. And that's where my wing's going to go. I'm going to reposition that hook in the vise so it's in there really solid, right where I want it. And we're going to put a wing. I got to have some Pepsi. I'm getting throat sore. Okay, we're going to take two elk hair. That's real blonde elk, pretty good. And this one's sort of a mixed color elk. I like that the best. It's not real blonde, it's sort of mixed color, a little darker. We're going to cut a good tuft of hair off. We're going to clean the hair first by the tips, clean it off. Then we're going to even it up, hair stacker. Get it as even as we can so it looks good. Remember, you don't have to do that for tying flies, but makes the fly look better. This hair is nice and straight. If it was going up, I'd bring it up that way. Put it in here, and I want to jam it. 3 wraps. 1, second one a little tighter, third one a little tighter. Take my thumbnail and push it down real tight, and a couple more wraps right in there tight. Pull it tight, thumbnail again, a couple more wraps. That baby is not going anywhere. Then I'm going to be careful to cut it off so I don't cut my wing. I just cut my stubs. Clean it off nice. If you leave a couple extra, it's not going to hurt anybody. This is the messiest fly I tie. My room, when I'm tying a bunch of these at night, I mean, I have a waist troll and all too, but even with that, feathers all over the place and fur. Okay, now we got plenty of room for that head. I'm going to build a nice head on that fly. For that, we're going to use brown elk hair or brown deer hair. Either way, both of them about the same. I'm going to go ahead and use elk. I got a nice piece of elk hair dyed brown. We're going to put a tuft of hair. Now, a lot of guys making these salmon flies, okay, they make the head real big. The larger you make the head on a salmon fly, the better it'll float. But the least it looks like a salmon fly. So you want it real thin. So you put a small tuft of hair on top, right there. Leave enough room to bring it back because that's going to be your part of your neck and part of your collar. Then we cut that off. And we take another tuft of hair, same size, not real big. We want this to be a small head. A salmon fly has a very small head. So this fly will have the right proportion and it'll look like a real salmon fly on the water. Does my fly work better than anybody else's? I don't think so. They all work good. That's the beauty of this tying. You tie your fly, it's your world, and you go out and catch a fish on it. So that's what it's all about. I pull that nice and tight, bring it back to thread, about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little less. Cut off. This fly works well for me, so I'm happy with it. But like I said, they all work, so you go out and have a good time, you tie your own. That's what makes this whole sport fun. All winter long, I can tie about fishing and think about fishing when I'm tying. Okay, we're going to get that eye nice and flat up there with the head, because that salmon fly has that flat head. We're going to cement it. We're going to cement it again, too, but cement it there. Now we're going to force this back all the way around, and we're going to pull it till I get about a good 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more, with about 3 wraps, and pull. There's our head, small head on the salmon fly, and I'm ready now for my legs. I should have some legs right in here. I might have some right here. Got some legs right there, all ready to go. How are we doing on time? Pretty good? 3 minutes? 3 minutes, I'm not that fast. All right. I got one more fly to do, but I don't have to do it. Okay, here we go. I don't want to take somebody else's time. We got her in here, right there. Huh? You can? Now I got my 4 legs on there. What did I say before? 6 legs? I guess it's 4 legs. I got to count. We're going to do a whip finish. Again, that's the beauty of this whip finish. You can put it anywhere you want. The tool is good too. Nothing wrong with a whip finish tool, but I prefer to do it this way. I've been doing it all my life this way, so that way. I want to flatten the head out. The salmon fly has a flat head, so very carefully. I don't want to break everything. Flatten that out. And then the legs are about right. Legs look good on that one. Now I'm going to cement top and bottom of that head. Once you cement it, that becomes a pontoon as well. Water won't soak in that head, and that'll help float. Now we got a properly tied Pteronarcis californica, very large salmon fly. That's the big salmon fly. Can you pass that around? Just bring them back, and that'll be great. Thank you, Tyler. Good deal. Thank you. So what are we looking on time? Are we basically done, or have time for another fly, or we're done? Somebody else is due, right?